something. Yeah, it's just conversation.
Stony, the road we trod, across the sands of time, through turbulent waves, from the bellies of beasts to underground railroads, migration, from Selma bridges to Darfur highways, from streets where we march to beats that move us, from the fire of protest to the fire of celebration, of carnival, of junkanoo, of festival, anting anting. If we can't walk, we run. If we can't run, we fly. We make a way to make our way. From hashtags to hand drums, from live streams to living rooms, from Lagos streets to London blocks, to every corner we claim as home. Every step, a link. Every link, a lifeline. Everywhere we go, there we are, as we've always been.
Time. I swear I got to do this every time. How we doing, everybody? Hey, yes. Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Dr. Fahamu Paku. I am the founder and executive director of the African Diaspora Art Museum of Atlanta, also known as ADAMA. And we are thrilled to welcome you here today for the 65th episode of the ADAMA Arts Salon. Yes. We host the Art Salon here at Pittsburgh Yards, as well as exhibitions and other creative projects. And we would like to make sure to invite everyone to check out our current exhibition, Patacones, Paintbrushes, and Power, which is currently on view. This is a groundbreaking exhibition that connects Portobello, Panama to Atlanta, bridging cultures, stories, and generations across the African diaspora. The exhibition is more than art. It's about seeing ourselves reflected everywhere we go, in the brushstrokes, in the photographs, and in the stories carried through music, memory, and movement. Between 1995 and 2015, Taller Portobello and Creative Currents Artists Collaborative brought together African-American and Afro-Latin artists to live, work, and dream together. That collaboration planted the seeds of connection that continue to grow here at ADAMA. But we are here today and in this moment for a very, very exciting conversation with two really brilliant curators, and it's my pleasure to introduce them today. We have moderator Lauren Jackson Harris and Brit Sadé Guerin. Lauren Jackson Harris is an independent curator and consultant. She co-founded the Black Women in Visual Arts, an organization that connects, cultivates, and serves Black women arts professionals. With BWVA, Harris builds partnerships and develops programs that create further visibility and opportunity for Black women in art. As an independent arts worker for over 15 years, Harris has managed special projects, curated exhibitions, and produced experiences with organizations and art spaces, such as the High Museum of Art, Atlanta Art Fair, Four Freedoms, Facebook, The Gathering Spot, Stay Home Gallery, Living Walls, Atlanta Contemporary Art Center, Freeze Los Angeles, Soho House, and many, many more. Joining her today is Brittany Sadé Guerin, also known as Brit Sadé. Brittany is a mother, international art curator, interdisciplinary artist, and her chief aim is to help mend the bridges across the diaspora through art and education. Put your hands together and welcome our panel today.
Thank you for the introduction, Fahamu. And yes, thank you for the list of our accolades. Thank you for having us here today at ADAMA, which is a really special place here in Atlanta, celebrating Black creative thought and ideas. I am just thankful to be here with Brittany. So we're gonna have a conversation, and we already agreed upon this. When I moderate panels or have these conversations, I like to engage the audience. Please do not wait to the end for your questions. We implore you to ask questions and maybe say thoughts and statements during our conversation while it inspires you. If there's something that she says or I say, or you want more expansion when it happens in your mind, I want you to say it when it happens, okay? So please feel free to engage with our conversation. So, hi.
Hello there.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Yeah.
And
Easy peasy.
I'm super excited to be
Same.
having this conversation with you.
Same,
Yeah.
same. I champion Black women in the space, and I feel like this is a perfect time to highlight what Black women visual art does. And I think that you being that woman this is a way for you to also know yourself a little bit more with the questions I'm going to ask. Dig deep, be honest. Y'all ask her questions to build her up and to really understand what she wants to do for the city of Atlanta. But I want to start with just knowing your origin story. Tell us, who is Brittany, and like what brings you here today?
Yeah, so it is a bit lengthy. How much time do we have?
An hour and a half. Okay.
So I would say, I like to start with saying I was born in Queens, New York. My parents moved here. Yeah, okay, there we go. My parents moved my brother and I here when I was 10 years old. So Atlanta raised me. That was in 2004. But when people ask me in particular about my origins as an art curator, what I like to start with is the fact that my parents are art collectors. And so I've always been in a home that resembled a gallery or a museum, right? And so art has always had an interest. I've always had an interest for art, but even beyond that, my great-great-grandfather, he painted for the White House. That side of my family is from Washington, D.C. He's listed on the census as a painter, and so is his dad. So I come from a long line of fine artists, singers, photographers. So I like to say, like Nipsey Hussle says, like, it's not on you, it's in you, right? And sometimes that can absolutely be true with your bloodline and ancestry.
You had a recent exhibition that talked about your familiar background. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Oh yeah, Corey Vini.
Mm-hmm.
And so Corey Vini is what they call Louisiana Creole. So that's my, I would say, heritage. Yeah. And I might be butchering the translation of it, but I believe it's I ran and you came. And so for me, it was about connecting more so with when I looked up ancestry for myself, the only line that I could find was in DC and Virginia. That search kind of didn't exist in deep Louisiana and Alabama. Like there are really I couldn't find the archives for my ancestors there, which was a little bit like hurtful and disappointing. And so Corey Vini for me was, how can I explore my heritage without absolutely knowing who these people were and what they did? So it was more so about channeling them spiritually. Yeah. So all of the artists, pretty much we had a lot of artists from New Orleans or have done work in New Orleans, but also my grandfather who just passed away, who's from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, he was a devoted Catholic man. So I wanted to go deep into that and what that looks like. So I asked P.D. Parker. He has an incredible piece of the Last Supper, his version of it, and that was the start for Corey Vini. So it's in honor of my lineage.
It's beautiful. Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. So when you talk about the origin behind your curatorial practice, was there someone that inspired you that you saw and like, I like what they're doing and I want to do more of that? Or was it a catalyst via an opportunity that you were given? Like what type of platform really gave you that idea to start doing that work?
So I went to school for film. Mm-hmm. My degree is in film and religious studies. But prior to that, Rockdale Career Academy, that I went to school in Rockdale County, they had a career academy to where you can go and you can follow a creative track. So I did fashion marketing and I did broadcast and video production. And my teacher, Sharon Shahan, I feel like she was the first person to introduce me to what curation really is, because in fashion, like when we're talking about the actual definition of the word curation, you're selecting, you're organizing, you're taking care of. And I feel like that exists. It existed in her class. So I was doing it before I realized I was doing it. Same thing with film and video. When I'm choosing what is the best scene and I'm putting it and editing it to have that final piece. So all of it had curation in it. When I went to college, I thought that I would be a cinematographer. So I love like beautiful images. Film has always been like huge for me. And a lot of people don't see what goes behind making those beautiful images, right? Like it's just as detailed as a painter painting. And when I started doing film, that led me to photography. And photography was the first place that I realized, oh, I can print this out and frame it and putting it into a gallery. So at the time at Georgia State, there were a ton of young creators coming together and just doing their own pop-ups for art. And so that, it's a long journey to the thing, but that seed of just seeing, shout out to Georgia State, let me just say that, and Clark Atlanta. Yeah. Because I've seen a lot of just like self-starters come out of those spaces, especially in the arts. And it is a longer story of how I got here today, but I will say Georgia State and film are definitely they planted the seeds in me to do what I'm doing.
And you've held various roles, even since Georgia State, but I think it's wonderful to think about education as a catalyst, because I think right now with art education being threatened in just APS and general school systems with our government, you really have to go back to the core in education and what we know and how we steward that information, what we use it as a tool in our careers is really important. So I like that you mentioned education. But aside from education and all that you've done since, define what some of these roles mean. You have done art consulting, art direction, general manager, curator of cultural spaces. Define what these roles mean to you, and how do you encompass all of them, and what's the through line? Like, how do you feel like they all connect?
So just going back to Georgia State, I had a fantastic film teacher, and I cannot remember her name, which makes me really sad because she changed my life. She made me realize that I wanted to be an educator. Yeah. And so after I left college, I did photography and I taught in APS for 2 years. So I was an English and social studies teacher. And we had some of the highest through Teach for America. Shout out to Teach for America. We sometimes we had my students just going from what Teach for America does say though is, hey, how can you go into this school system and utilize creativity to change the scope of the system? And I felt like I was doing a fantastic job of that when I was I taught at Brown Middle School and Crawford Long Middle School. And I was able to see students with reading levels on like second grade, third grade, at least hit fifth by the time we ended the school year, right? And so that was that impact of being a teacher really gave me the confidence to decide, okay, well, I may not be able to have as much as an impact as I want to have. At least I knew I had it with my students, right? But the system is so large, and I mean, we can get into teaching another time. But it made me realize, okay, well, how can I be an educator in everything that I do, no matter what the actual title is? And so whatever I'm doing is always to push the needle forward, to empower, to educate. So that's what I take with every single role. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Again, education, y'all. Learning through doing, learning through other people, learning through experiences. I think education to me is like, what is the quote? Like, you always be knowing, always be studying, always be learning. Like we always have to learn, no matter what age and what capacity we're working in. If you want to learn something new or just expand your own mind, your own discipline, we always have to be reading and learning, especially reading now, because books are disappearing. So we have to continue to read and build our education platforms.
And shout out to public libraries, guys. It's free. I would utilize it.
Yeah. And archive spaces, support them, and make sure you dig to do the work that what we need to do, right? Mm-hmm. In terms of a practicing artist, because you mentioned film and really, you sounded really passionate when you talked about film and cinematography. How do you balance your artistry and producing that work in having creative thought to do so, but also stewarding other artists and also curating them?
I think that is a complete loaded answer, and that's like it is, right?
Yeah.
So Francis Coppola is a notable director, and he talks about finding your oil well. And for him, his oil well was a winery, right? Of course, I mean, if we get into the details of Francis Coppola, he had people who backed him financially, millions of dollars. But I took that and I said, okay, how Steve Harvey also talks about you should follow the thing that you do easiest with the least amount of effort. Now, I put effort into every single thing that I do, but like curation called me, and it was the thing that I was like, oh, like I really love this, and I could do this over and over and over and over again. Not saying that I don't have that same thing with film, but I don't have to necessarily deal with and not all of the film industry is toxic, but I don't have to, as a Black woman, I can go in another route and still have a storytelling impact that I want to have, right? And so I am still very much so interested in filmmaking. But now I feel like my purpose is to tell better stories utilizing the arts and the community that I live in. And right now the I don't even want to say lowest hanging fruit, but the easiest way, the best way for me to do that now is to empower the artists that are around me, you know? And so film is always going to be there. Most directors, writers don't, 50, 60 years old. I'm okay with that. I'm okay to retire and I make films and but right now I feel like this is what's most important in my life.
And that kind of leads into my next question, because when we talk about storytelling, I think curators do that work. We encompass an artist's work or a group exhibition, and we tell the story. We're part of stewarding their themes and their messages through what visual identities they're creating. How do you feel that, like when curating exhibitions, how do you decide which voices and themes and artists to center in your storytelling? How do you decide? Like, because I have my own way that I say yes and no and who I'm going to work with and how I feel, and like instinctually, like it is an instinct. Curatorial work is an instinct. Like you look at something, you're like, I see it, and one day I'll work with them, but it's not right now, or maybe not this space or not this time. Like it's like a mental Rolodex of like, I see you, but maybe not right now. But when the opportunity comes, you're like, oh, you're good for this, right? What is your process in terms of doing that?
I think that comes with time, right? Like when I first started out, I feel like I was like, I want to include everybody, and then there's not enough wall space. So what are you going to do now?
those large group shows are not easy.
Oh my goodness.
You learn real quick.
Yeah. So from there it was about, I know we talked about intentionality, right? Intentionality and also equity. Like equity is really huge for me. So how I base who I'm working with now really does depend on the space, the price point at which the artist is working with, the feedback that I receive from their work, or if I have like a very strong emotional pull to it. I daydream a lot. So most of the ideas come in daydreams. So if I'm just staring into space, I'm probably thinking of a cool idea, guys. Okay.
I feel like that's most artists. We just kind of stare at something like that could be.
Is she okay?
Because I was looking at this chair thing like, what could I put that in? Like, you know what I mean? Like that's normal. Yeah, I love that.
But for instance, with Corey Vini, when I saw PD's, I did a studio visit with PD, and he had another piece of a woman who had the crown, the crucifix crown on. And you can start I say for me particular as an art curator, it can either start with a title, it can start with the theme that I want to talk about. If it's fall equinox and I want to talk about that, then I'm going to base the artist based off of that and the work that I feel like fits. But with Corey Vini in particular, that piece started with P.D. Parker, right? The large scale, the representation of my grandfather, what that means to me. Because as a curator, I also think of myself as an artist first. And so curation is the ultimate collaboration between the curator, the artist, and the gallery that you're in. So you have to consider all three of those things when you're entering into any space. But now I'm working on an exhibit at Avondale Arts Alliance, and now I'm in the art dealer side, right? Like I want to sell art because it's for the betterment of everyone. So now that comes into consideration, right? So now I asked Avondale Arts Alliance, well, what are the patterns that you see in your buyers? What are they buying at? What is the price point that they're buying at? And you can typically get that range. I want to cater to the people who come to Avondale Arts Alliance and they want to buy. So let's say that I'm just going to make this up. Let's say the price point is $250 to $750. Sure, I can push the envelope and I say I want to put a piece up there for $3,000, but I'm also needing to be considerate of the audience. Yeah. Is there another artist that I can give an opportunity to that does fit inside the price point, you know, instead of just having the piece up because it looks nice.
Yeah.
So when you're learning how to do curation, you learn how to refine, right? Like that refinement.
It's a lot of negotiation with self.
Oh, wow.
sorry.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. I said negotiation with self. Sorry, I didn't have my mic up.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Oh.
So looking back over your whole time have you seen certain trends or change? Oh, thank you. Have you seen certain trends or changes?
That was one of my questions. How you gonna jump?
Oh, in terms of what
Go ahead.
artists have been
Go
doing?
ahead.
Well,
Go
we're
ahead.
there now. We got there.
We
got there.
We're here.
So just interested to hear from both of you on that.
Oh, what trends that we're seeing in the city of Atlanta?
if you've seen any changes or developments or trends in terms of what artists are doing or what artists are thinking about.
My goodness, my brain wasn't in that space for me. I think Atlanta, I don't like to think in trends. I'll say that first, because I think it locks artists into a space of expectancy of doing that type of trend. And it keeps your eye enclosed with looking for that trend solely. And so I don't think in trends, I think in art economic wealth. Like, where are we in terms of our arts economy? Are we buying? Is there space? Are there people supporting the spaces and the artist? So I think trend-wise for that, we are in an interesting position of needing more financial support from individuals to support organizations that need to thrive because they're losing funding from the government. That part. And I think we need to also support artists individually in their practice, because grants right now are really hard for Black artists because of the work that they're doing. So are you collecting from said artists? Are you just giving them some money just to buy supplies? So I think the trend right now for Atlanta is we need to really ramp up our consumerism and our support financially for the city, because that's where we're lacking. And I think in terms of just trends of the art market in general, it is suffering heavily right now. And people, even as much as we're producing art, there's always going to be art and creative thought produced. But with Atlanta, people, even with organizations coming here and more press being on Atlanta, there's still a huge lack of funding and a huge issue with our arts economy being more cohesive and collective.
I mean, I feel like that is layered as well, right? So ADAMA was the first institution to recognize me as a co-curator and pay me a living wage to do it. At least in my opinion, at the time, it was like, oh wow, this is real, that exists. So I've even in New York, there's a lot more funding out there, but in the curation space, it's there's a separation between an artist space and a curation space when I feel like they actually both exist together. Like I said, it's an absolute collaboration. Have I seen any improvements in that? No, but I'm happy I'm here, right? Like, this was the improvement in my life. But as far as trends with art in particular, I agree with you. We just had a conversation of like what we think, at least what I think personally, the global trend is for Black art. But if you are someone that's an artist or a gallerist or someone who is a collector, I feel like Atlanta is very much so high on the prints. Shout out to Black Art in America for educating on prints as well. And also I feel like, it just depends on, I like to see that there are more spaces that are accommodating different price points, to where the everyday person who wants to collect art, they don't necessarily have to have a payment plan to do it. Like, if you have anywhere between $150 to $500, I've seen that be the most successful range from where I am as an art curator, to be honest. So Charity Abudallah's exhibition recently was almost completely sold out. And it was because I consider her to be what I believe to be a community artist. I asked her, we spoke about price point, and she's like, well, I really want this in someone's home. And those are things that you really do have to consider. what's comfortable for understanding your demographic, right? More than the trends outside or the global trends or the international trends. What is happening in your community? What are the, so as an art curator, I also have to consider that all the time, right? I'm working on being an art dealer. It is not easy.
Nope.
At all. In New York, it's a little bit easier, I will say. And I don't know if that's because of New York being one of the largest art communities.
I mean, I have my thought around why, but you want to? Yeah. See, I might piss people off, but I think there's an education gap in the South in terms of the arts, and what we have access to. When you think about New York, there's so many more spaces to enter through education. When you're in elementary school, they visit museums regularly. They're engaging with their community artistically. And I think in Atlanta specifically, or Metro Atlanta, I remember when I was working at Zuccotti Gallery, and we partnered with the Office of Cultural Affairs to do to have, like, for elementary and middle school students to have access to the gallery to visit as field trips. You'd be surprised how much it was their first time entering any art space where art was hung. 2, they were scared to enter. Like, we literally had to go to the door and say, "You can step in." That type of trepidation doesn't exist in New York because they already are kind of getting that visible, like, access. They're feeling that access point, right? And so I think there's an education gap in terms of just being inclusive with who is allowed in spaces, how we enter spaces. So I think that's kind of the biggest thing. Even with the fair coming last year, one of the biggest questions I got in my booth was, "Oh, you can buy this stuff?" Fair, they thought it's not a fair where festivals are, where you could just kind of go and explore and have fun and look at art. I think people, even the lack of, and that question wasn't from young people. I mean, it was generationally different. It was racially different. I had questions, people saying, "Oh, you can buy this stuff." And it wasn't just my booth being a project space. It was galleries having to tell people that this stuff is for sale. Right. And so there's a difference in, I think, education or just understanding what art and how art plays in our society in the South than it is in the North.
And so I guess to finish off the question just about trends, like, now we need to be directing our focus to educating artists and educating buyers and collectors. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, sorry. She had the mic, sorry. I'll run it over after Ro. So one of the things that I found interesting, though, is we have an art fair, right, who's coming into the city. And I've heard now from multiple sources, and I'm aware myself, trying to get them to engage with the city and provide that education. And those ideas, to me, were shot down. And so how do we influence change when we have something that's being done for profit, and there seems to be an additional gate put around it where they're like, they're going to get theirs, and educating and uplifting so that more people are comfortable and understand what they're going into. Now, it did result in a newsletter that comes out on Monday, how to do an art fair.
Hallelujah.
But it was really a struggle to push and want for something different. So how do we encourage those private entities that may come into our city and do what they want to do?
I was going to say, like, before you, for you to ask that question, you're doing it anyway.
Yeah, Artful.
Right? I say we do it anyway. Through Artful, I mentioned education to you a long time ago about this platform specifically, and I mentioned it to the team at the fair, saying we need to teach Atlanta what this means from the collector standpoint, from the visitor standpoint. You can enjoy, but these are some questions that you can ask to enjoy the art. If you are thinking about buying, we need to tell people, like, hey, maybe put aside $50 every month if you want to create a budget for yourself to buy art, because the range of dollars where you can buy art at the fair is really vast. From $500 to $20,000. Like, you can start, and half the time people don't know, you can ask for, hey, how about a payment plan? What does that look like for you? People don't know they can ask that question, and they're embarrassed to. It's not embarrassing to ask. There are rich people that I know that can pay for it out of their pocket, still ask for payment plans. And I've had those people ask me for payment plans. Okay. So I think people feel like there is an inaccessible point, like, here in Atlanta. So education should happen. And I think we have to just do it through the platforms that we know and love.
So AMP is out of New York.
Yeah.
What uses of them educate Atlanta? That I can see where that, you're already coming from your standpoint of New York, where people are already educated. They're just here to,
of course, I feel like it is to build our art week, to build our arts community, but that might be too much of an extra step. But you're already leading in that space, and I feel like, can we get a round of applause to Sohei? Sorry,
Don't shake your head.
you are already doing it. I've seen Artful already benefit so many artists. Like it literally is the epitome of what the Black arts community in Atlanta is.
No, you take this. You take this, love.
You know, I hope that answered the question. I mean, I just don't expect so much of it. Would be nice.
Yeah. I mean, I think it also takes community too, because it's, I mean, right now there's Black people in this room.
Absolutely.
And there's a greater, I mean, diversity aspect that in our city, that, I mean, we are technically a melting pot, but we are a Black city. And I think that other spaces outside of the Black space need to also be doing that work too. They're not void of having to do that work. And I think they should be for everyone. So you had a question over here too.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is related to everything. So is there any place that's like not New York or like LA or Miami that is a good model that Atlanta could look to say, hey, we can start adopting some of the things that they're doing, but like not New York or nothing
Absolutely.
like that, or Chicago.
I love what Charlotte does. Dallas, Houston, Denver, Chicago. Where's Little Rock does really great with their arts funding.
How is DC?
DC's okay. Nashville does really good too. Yeah. So, and there's actually a graph that the Georgians for the Arts has posted comparing the art economic dollar to other states. Georgia is lowest, obviously, because we're ranked 49th, but we are 11 cents to the dollar versus like Charlotte. This is a much smaller city, but comparative in terms of demographics, they're at like 30 cents to the dollar. But it's like, it's really how much the governmental entity is putting into the space. And so right now, our governmental body and our lobbyists aren't supporting more money towards the arts. Luckily, Fulton County just got a little bit of money back. That's great. But there are other counties in the metro city, Atlanta. So I think there are several cities that we can mirror from. Somebody from San Jose is here this week that I've been in touch with, and they're trying to do more and build them up. And they're kind of saying like, oh, well, y'all can kind of learn from us too. I'm like, yeah, we can. But I think it's more city entities need to talk about it. Like even our new Office of Culture Affairs Executive Director, she comes from New Haven. She has a lot of things that she can bring here that she did successfully there that I feel like will be really well implemented in Atlanta.
I think there's a missed opportunity in the state of Georgia because we're mostly thinking about Atlanta when the state of Georgia is humongous. And so if and this is just like my, I have high hopes. But if we are 49th in the United States for arts funding, but Atlanta is pretty, when it comes to established art scene, I feel like we're pretty high up as far as other cities in the state of Georgia.
Absolutely.
What does that look like? And John is here, and John has spoken to me about places like Augusta and Macon. What does it look like to amplify and empower those cities? Can that make a difference in the advocacy for the, how much money is going to the arts in the state of Georgia, right? Because OCA can only do so much.
And just like, you think about even Savannah, Georgia does really great. And I think it's just making sure those community organizations are also talking to us, and let's kind of bridging it across. But an organization like South Arts, their job is to do that. And they're losing money and they can't give access. They actually go into rural spaces where, I hate this term, vernacular artists or self-taught artists are trying to amplify their own work. South Arts does that legwork to make sure that people who don't have access to the internet can submit applications for funding, right? But they are losing staff. They are losing funding. And it's like, we have to support the organizations that are doing it and making sure they thrive and continue to do good work. Okay.
I was gonna just add to that, like if we're not 100% reliant on grants, right? How can we still build our arts community? Is something
individual funding right now is the only way. Private family foundations are forming because I think there's some wealthy families that understand that they can give individually. So there's a lot of family foundations forming, or the ones that have formed already are giving privately, but there's no way to understand who is because sometimes they don't post that information, which is also a form of like elitism in a way. But so it's kind of like who you know. But I think individual giving is the one way we can save ourselves. Absolutely. I think we have to think about the artistic dollar and where we're putting it.
Thank you for this is a riveting conversation, but I do want to bring it back to y'all.
Oh yeah, I have a question. Yes,
and I do have a question.
Oh, okay.
You know, I'm curious to know. You know, when we talk about you know, various movements, whether they're political movements, social movements, cultural movements, oftentimes they're being led by Black women, and they don't get the credit for it. And I wanted to ask both of you, as independent curators, how you are carving paths for opportunities that don't exist, right? Like rather than lamenting what hasn't happened, how are you creating, you know, space through your work?
Sure. I feel like my most recent exhibition in New York, Octavia, was creating a space that I didn't see exist. And I've always been a self-starter. So if there's an opportunity, even if I feel like I might not get it, I'm still going to try and get it. I was able to receive grant funding from a laboratory in New York City to come and study what Octavia E. Butler might have studied in for her Pattern Master series. And so that's like a way to get funding in order to amplify the voices of the many artists that I see in my community. Now, this exhibition was on Governor's Island, which was an abandoned military base for years, right? Very historical. They've transformed the island to be an arts island. And my exhibition, in particular for our Enclave Art Alliance, who invited me, was transformational for that space as well. So I guess thinking about what you're doing and understanding that the impact is going to be larger than just you is also creating space for other people to just be great artists. So Joseph is here. He was one of the artists that was at the Octavia exhibition, John. And so wherever I go, I try to take people with me as much as possible. And people were coming in and asking if it was a museum. And so opportunities from there just flow when you're taking risks, when you have the intention of, I'm doing this to amplify voices, not just based off of, I just want to do it just to do it, right? That was a huge transition for me, from doing things just to do it, then like being absolutely intentional about the moves that you're making as an art curator. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
I guess my answer is more specific because I founded an organization to do just that, to center Black women's contributions to the arts. My current research is around that contribution from the 19th, 20th, and 21st century. And people don't realize how far back Black women have been leading intellectual thought in the arts. And we are the catalyst of art history when it comes to Black arts history, right? Using our voices. And back then, artists had to be also art historians, right? Now it's kind of separate where you're kind of doing one or the other, but back then artists had to be both, or had to be all things. So I think with Black women visual art, what I've been doing for the last 6 years is really just showcasing, centralizing what is happening, because people didn't realize there are Black curators all across the country and internationally, arts workers internationally that just didn't feel seen. Recently, I did a tour. We do tours sometimes with different Black women's exhibitions. And I did a tour with Gladys Scruggs, who is one of the curators of the Elizabeth Catlett show that was at the National Gallery of Art. And at the end, she was like, I don't feel like this would have been seen that much if you, she's like, I don't feel seen as much. And you being here and just highlighting, she was like, it's always like the top 5 or 7 curators that get shown in the news and arts news. And for her to do this deep work about Elizabeth Catlett and be shown, be highlighted on my platform meant a lot to her. And I get that conversation a lot from like just an emerging curator, an emerging archivist, or anybody that gets shown on our platform. They feel appreciative. The book they write, it gets highlighted on my platform. I make space in that way by highlighting what they're doing. But I also create programs to highlight their exhibitions. We did a tour with Raina Lampkins at the Armory Show to talk about her curatorial practice with Souls Grown Deep. So I'm really trying to find opportunities to amplify the voices through any by any means, whether it's a residency with the house. Hey, this curator needs to stay there for a week just to do a little bit of research. We're trying to really expand that. So yeah, anytime I get the opportunity to mention somebody's name or to amplify their work, I do it. And I do it. I think that is part of when I created Black Women Visual Art. I knew that was my passion work, my God-given work.
As far as the education part, I have an ebook called Curating Exhibitions, and it's supposed to be read as like a to-do thing. So if you're looking to curate something, this is like a guide to do it. It's not a lot of fluff. It gets straight to the point on what you need and the resources it takes to be able to curate something thoroughly. So I would say that's also, yeah.
And recreating resources is really important too, and sharing that knowledge. I'm going to kind of bring it back to it a little bit of Atlanta, because we've talked about the different ways, like the challenges and the gains from it. But I really want to understand your grit behind the work, because Atlanta to me brings a certain like wherewithal, a certain you say like having to just kind of create things on your own, a certain grit in terms of regarding like funding resources, accessibility, advocacy. And we've talked about like gatekeeping and siloism in the city and how that also kind of is interesting to navigate, right? How do you navigate both the beauty and the challenges in this city? And could you list one example of a successful moment and or a challenging moment?
There is no life without challenges. We wouldn't even watch TV if there were no challenges. We love those stories that is like full of obstacles, right? And so I kind of just romanticize my life in that way. So if some of my favorite characters and stories can get through those obstacles, I know that I can. And also the idea of like you have to see it to be it. Like I see you guys, right? Like we have Courtney Brooks here. Like I see it. And so now I'm like, okay, I can do it. You know, sometimes it just takes that extra push. But I mean, the challenges have just been endless, especially being a parent and trying to navigate, how do I follow this passion, which seemingly there is not a ton of resource or financial abundance as of right now, while still being able to be the best mom and human being that I can be. That has been the largest challenge and the most beautiful challenge, because as my confidence as an artist has increased, I can see the confidence in my son also, increasing and growing every single day. And so, yeah, I would just, the only response I have to that is God and one day at a time. There are too many challenges to name, and I don't want to focus on the challenges as much.
What about a successful moment that you can tell us about? One thing where you just like, like this is the direction I'm gonna keep going. Like, was there like a moment where you're just like, I put my boots in the ground and I won from that? It's just been kind of back and forth.
I'm just in the flow.
Okay.
Yeah, like I feel like me being alive is success.
Yeah.
For me in particular.
Yeah.
This is the cherry on top for me. I would say a successful moment was going to New York without a ton of funding.
And still making it happen.
But that's what
I think you need to recognize. Like I've had my friends tell me I don't recognize my moments enough. So I think that through the challenges that you're listing and you're thinking about the TV and comparing the strife through them. I think find the little moments of joy and make sure you're recognizing your input into those, right? Because I feel like Black women don't do that enough. We don't stop and recognize our contribution. And I implore you to do that.
I see the impact, right? I see when artists call me and they ask me, hey, what do you think about this? Or, I see that impact. I guess where I am right now more so is like my relationship with God is the most important thing. And everything else is, it'll just channel through and it'll work itself out regardless, right? So what I'm doing, I feel like is absolutely important. I won't take away from that at all. But the idea of just showing up as a human being and being kind and considerate and, and doing what you love, I think that is the most important part about existing in any space that you're in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've had art leadership roles at Mint and Peter Street Station, right? And I think those are two very really artist-centered spaces. As a leader there, how do you balance the practicality of being like the business side of an art space and like your creative leadership? Like, what did you feel like you learned most from those roles of being an arts leader on the business side of things in those
That
spaces?
you have to utilize every single resource that you have in the most respectful way. And you cannot be afraid to pivot when things are not going in the direction that you should believe it should go. It is okay to pivot. If I got an award, it would probably be for pivoting quickly. You got to know when to pivot quickly too, right? Mint in particular, and we don't have to stay on this long. I was hired in March of 2024 as an art director there. The executive director at the time, she gave me her notice that she was leaving in April. And it was just her and I who were working there. It was just her and I. So it went from me thinking I got a good part-time job
to a full-time one now.
Fast. And so that journey, I don't like when we talk about successes or fails, I feel like that was a success for me mentally, because I learned what does a budget of a nonprofit look like? Where can we be more effective? In what areas can we be more effective? Right. And just also sometimes things have to end and that's okay. So, and then as far as Peter Street, like when we're talking about grant funding and we talk about Maya's not receiving any grants. He's doing this out of his pocket. And so, I'm grateful to be able to see both sides of the art spectrum. And my hope is that through, as I keep going and I persevere, that I'm able to find something in between, for the community.
You mentioned being a mother, and I think that as an arts worker, we build communities, we support communities. But as a mother and an arts worker, especially when you're working independently outside of a formal institution, community in your own space matters. Your tribe matters. Because I feel like I would not be here if it wasn't for the people that I can call and kind of vent to, yell at, be like, what the hell, girl? Like, just really like, where's those spaces? What do those spaces look like for you? Like, what kind of support? Like, I have family here. I'm from Atlanta. So there's family here. There's friends here. There's other colleagues that I know that I can say, like, I have a question real quick. And they'll answer the phone, whether it's text or call. Like, what type of support do you feel like Atlanta gives you, whether it's familiar, professionally, or like, what does that look like for you? And how do you balance it all?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I have a village. Like, I'm really grateful for the village that I have.
Yeah.
My mom,
Yeah.
Tamiko Lori Guerin. She's fantastic.
Yeah.
And my aunt, Kimberly Daly, who's an incredible real estate agent, broker, just brilliant woman. They have definitely they've been the rock when I'm like, I'm falling down the mountain. I don't know if I can get back up. It's been them for sure. Just because sometimes like we've measured success based off of how much money that we make. Yeah. And what they always bring me back to is like, how about you start measuring? I want money. I want to just make that clear, guys. But what if we measure our success by your impact and how you make people feel, right? And so they allow me to always come back to that, especially as a mom. But I would also like to say my son's grandmother, Alicia Scott, she is you really do need a village when you're raising a child. And I don't feel like I know that I'm a single mother, but I'm not a single parent, if that makes sense. Yep. Like I have a lot of people invested in making sure that Marcel becomes like an incredible man. And that has been my priority over everything, but I could not have done it without those women.
Do you incorporate him does he understand what you do? Cause I know sometimes, I'm a very grown woman, but my father still has not like I don't think he could tell you what my title is.
Mine either.
Right. So I think when you're an arts worker, it's like, my kids are like, oh, my mom does something in the arts.
Yeah.
I think they're just now getting it. But does he know what you do? And do you bring him along with you in that?
I do. He does know what I do. I actually participated in his school's career day, which was fantastic. Kayla Hagler did a mural of him. I think it was called Stacks. What street is that? I can't think of it right now. Cabbagetown. And I think when he saw the mural, so I took a photo of him and she painted him with like a water gun. I think when he saw the mural, he was able to understand, oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay, this is really cool, right? And so now he asks me, like, are you at work at the gallery? Because galleries change when you're an independent curator. You might be somewhere one month and then somewhere else the next. But he definitely understands. Will he be an artist himself? I don't necessarily think he would get into like the fine arts. I'll try to get him to paint. He's like, absolutely not. But I do think, like I said, it's in him as well. So I'm sure he'll be inspired by it. But just maintaining my focus is primarily for myself, of course, but for him as well.
Yeah. So we're in a space of like that focuses on African diasporic art, right? I'm switching up a little bit. Sorry, guys. What responsibility do you feel our institutions have in amplifying the shared yet diverse identities of the diaspora?
I mean, ADAMA doing a fantastic job. Shout out to ADAMA. ADAMA was the first opportunity that I received to work with international artists.
Absolutely.
And I realized, oh, this is what I want to do. I want to help mend as many bridges as possible. Speaking to the artists, we had some from Nigeria. There were artists from Kenya, South Africa. There were artists out of Germany. It was a beautiful experience. And it definitely helped me form my mission as an art curator. But I would say for institutions, I don't have the answer to that question for what institutions can do, right? Like until I feel like I have my own institution, I feel like it should come, all places should have their own value system and missions for what they want to accomplish. And then they need to be able to do the very best they can to be able to, to make sure that that mission is happening. And if not, then you probably should have another mission, right?
Right.
And so I would just say, I would hope more institutions in Atlanta would take chances for emerging artists and emerging curators.
Absolutely.
And also more education, right? So how can more institutions, if you can't necessarily offer financial gains for an artist, but mentorship is just as important. So how can we find more spaces that mentor artists and has their boundaries? Because being a mentor, I'm like, oof, it's a lot.
It is.
But what are those boundaries around being a mentor, and how can more spaces in the city facilitate that? That to me, if you're a self-starter anyway, all you need is some advice from someone, and then you can carry the torch.
Absolutely.
And that is what I wish happened more here.
Yeah.
That's not happening a lot.
Yeah.
You have to have sold a lot. You have to have been in different places to be seen, but that doesn't mean that the artist is not talented or the curator is not talented. Sometimes it's just who you know.
Yeah.
And so I would just hope to see that Atlanta starts taking more chances with people who are passionate about what they're doing, rather than where they think that the trends will be going in the future for the arts.
Yeah. In regards to that, I like to say art is a mirror, a connector, a conduit of change, even documentation of experiences over time. What do you hope for the next generation of Black artists and curators? And what do you feel like should be reflected in the diasporic visual identity?
Yeah, I feel like right now the global trend for Black art is figuratism, which is great. My great-grandfather, he did everything, but he was a landscape artist. And shout out to George Galbraith. We spoke about this earlier. We don't see a lot of people taking documentation of what our cities look like while we were there. And I think that I would love to see more people dive into historic preservation of the community that they're in.
Absolutely.
And I also think abstract art too, just the ability to free your mind in a way that it's just free flowing, right? Kwame Giles is one of my favorite abstract artists. the reusing of materials, the sustainability of it. Of course, I would want to see us take more of a sustainable approach. I was told that there's different types of wood that you could frame your piece with it, and it can take out toxins from your in your home. So art can also be seen as a purifier, right? So that's where I want to see the future of art go, more towards historical documentation and also sustainability in its practice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like there can be healing through the arts? And have you created an exhibition where you feel like, I hope this gives someone a different view of what Blackness is? Do you feel like there's a healing or a communal sense in what exhibitions you've curated?
I don't know. I guess I would have to ask someone who's come to the exhibition, but art has definitely healed me. Yeah. Leaving teaching, I was traumatized. Oh, I was traumatized. Yeah. My soul was broken when I left APS. Just the system, it really took a toll on me. And yeah, and so coming back to the arts saved my life, essentially. Yeah. It gave me purpose again. And so I at least hope that, whatever I'm doing is people can see themselves in it. And that's the primary goal.
Yeah. I was watching a show the other day, and a Black woman was describing her experience as being a Black woman is like getting a million little cuts and not ever being able to heal them all. And so I think that sometimes the voice of a Black woman in their work is healing, essentially, like giving opportunities and putting your words into your research is, to me, alone healing. So I hope you know that, like, you just doing this work is healing for yourself. Because I think for me, art is a solve. It is something that helps to heal those million little cuts throughout the day, right? And having those opportunities. I guess I have 2 more questions. If anybody wants to intervene, you can. So in 10 years from now, if you had a Wikipedia page, what would you want it to say?
So I thought about that thoroughly. I have a cousin who was an arts teacher for the United Nations International School. So she has a Wikipedia page. It's like, oh, wow. If I don't have, I'll let the future decide on what I'll end up doing. But at least in the first line, I would like it to say, interdisciplinary artists, museums, music, and motion pictures.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's vast. That's awesome. I mean, that you could do that in 10 years. A lot can happen. Yeah. A lot can happen in
we'll
that.
We'll see the way the state of the world is going. I have faith, though, in us all.
We have to. And what advice would you give a young professional hoping to enter the arts and cultural sector today?
Know your why. And that should be in everything that you do. Everything. Absolutely. What is the reason behind why you want to do what you do? Because within that, you will find the grit and to persevere through whatever it is that's calling you, right? And then as far as any other advice, like literature-wise, I would say The Alchemist has been transformative for me, at least to see these journeys do take time, and all of those, what we believe to be the obstacles to keep us from it is actually leading us to what we want. Right. And I would also say to artists, study. Like we said earlier, the library is free. I didn't go to school for art. I am in the library every week studying Black art, I studied Octavia Butler because the way that she writes, I can see what she's writing, right? And so you can be inspired by many things, but stay as inspired as possible. Your inspiration is going to see you through those very tough times, and you choose your hard, because I could be working corporate. That's hard. Or I can do what I'm doing and still feel satisfaction in it. So that's the advice that I would give to artists. Another thing is really pay attention to your prices. I know that's completely off. If you're looking to make a living as an artist, pay attention to your pricing and how you talk about your work and how you talk about your pricing, because you have to have confidence in that, and it has to have reason. In my opinion, it should have reason. And when you understand your why as an artist, then you will be a little bit more strategic when it comes to selling the art, unless you want to just be an artist and not sell the work. I mean, there are some artists that are like that. That's fine. But in the business, I would say study the business of art and also the business of selling. I study Steve Jobs all the time. There's a founders podcast. I highly recommend you guys. If you're interested in like business in general, it applies to everything. They talk about Larry Gagosian, Steve Jobs, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. All of these people had some type of grit and perseverance in them that I feel like everyone can learn from. Founders podcast. Very good podcast. Mm. Mm-hmm.
How do I find you guys? How do you find curators? And I mean, I give them my way. I want to know if you guys are curators. What would be the best way for young artists, people who are just graduating, people that are out here in the community that are active? How do they reach out? What's the way for them to kind of find that stuff?
I didn't have I just decided and then tried to position myself in places where I could potentially find those people, right? So when I was working at Black Coffee in Castleberry Hill, I'd always been a fan of, the Peter Street family. And Petey Parker would come in all the time. And I'm like, yo, Petey, can you put your art in the coffee shop? And he said, yes. Petey connected me to Sohe, who is the curator that I would say is like the foundation of my career. And also Maya Bailey, right? So it's about positioning yourself in spaces where you feel like you can learn and develop, because you can learn how to curate on your own and then find inspiration within that, going to museums and saying, oh, I like what they did here. I'm a frequent at the High. And so I don't like to say that you should 100% rely on the mentorship. It comes if you want it, it'll come to you. But in the meantime, what that looks like is taking risks and placing yourself in those spaces that will be able to help develop you. Now, and you can finish this, but okay. I just want to say also in this city, being selective about the spaces that you decide to learn from is very important too, right? And when we're talking about pivoting, because I know you're talking about students in particular, so I just want them to be as protected as possible, is you need to it is important to, if you feel uncomfortable in a space, it is important for you to acknowledge that. And if you have to move on, you should move on as quickly as possible. Because when we're talking about arts in all fields, film, music, there are predators in all of those spaces. And so as a Black woman in particular, it is something that I had to, grow to. I was 27 when I started art curation, but when I see younger women now that are like 18, 19, 20, I'm like, I need you to be aware that you need to protect yourself in those spaces, regardless of what you think the opportunity is going to be. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah. Oh, you're good. I think there is I think one thing that you said is really about knowing the spaces that you're in. Students in particular, or artists or individual artists, I think working with a curator just depends on the opportunity, right? I think that making sure you're being seen and being able to talk about your practice very like elevator pitch wise, like having that acumen of your own practice and being able to talk about it, I think is important. So if I'm at an event and somebody knows I'm a curator and the artist walks up to me, hey, I'm an artist and I'm going to quickly add you to the Rolodex, but I'm not going to have an answer for you right then. But I'll say, hey, what's your Instagram? I'll follow you or I'll look at it. I'll either save it in like a box somewhere, copy, like I have a running list of different artists that I see that I'm like, I want to circle back to that, right? But you have to give the curator space, because opportunities don't just come every day where you can say, oh, I can put you in a show tomorrow. That's unrealistic. It is realistic for us to look at your work, adjust, like absorb it a little bit. Be like having heard somebody, like I've heard different artists approach me and I'm like, ooh, they're not quite ready. Right. And I will usually tell them if they're open to it. I say, hey, are you open to criticism at this point? And sometimes they'll say yes, sometimes they'll say no. I'm like, hey, you need to prepare how to speak about your work a little bit more. And that makes them confident to work with you. Right. Because I've worked with students before, and I think there also is a lesson in also how you approach. I've had cold DMs, cold emails, cold calls, cold walk-ups, but I think it's really the artist being confident about what they're putting forward, whatever space they're in, to talk about it. Of course.
Well, thank you all.
I have one last quote. Just one last quote. I know we got to go.
Okay.
I just have a quote because I read this today and I just thought it mattered for this space. This is an art historian friend of mine. He said, every exhibition, every page, every conversation is a brick laid in the archive of our time. The work you do, all of you, is not just about showing art, but about restoring memory, conserving vision, ensuring that art history is not forgotten, but carried forward as a living force. Your practice is proof that curation is not simply arrangement. It is authorship, it is legacy, and it is the creation of a cultural permanence. And I thought that was relevant to this conversation because the work that we all do together, whether you're a collector, curator, or artist, they're all in the same web. And I hope that we continue to work together in this community.
Same. Thank you guys so much for coming.
No, because I was going to ask if you had any final words, but that was it. You did it. You did it. You did it. Another round of applause for Brit Sadé and Lauren Harris. Wonderful, wonderful conversation and dialogue. Grateful to have shared this space with you all. Grateful for all of you that came out on your beautiful Sunday afternoon to spend it with us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are ADAMA, African Diaspora Art of Museum of Atlanta, and we would love to make sure that you're following us on Instagram. So if you're not following us at ADAMA TL, please do. Also, visit our website, and this wonderful programming is made possible by individuals like yourself. And so when we talk about community giving, community resources, if you heard an amazing trombone player on the street, you might drop some dollars in that case. Similarly, if you enjoyed today, we have QR codes available online. You can certainly get with any one of us who might be wearing an ADAMA pin, but we appreciate the community support just as much as we appreciate the government dollars and grants that may or may not come so easily. So thank you again for coming out and enjoy the rest of your Sunday.